Bob Emberger. Graduated from high school, June 1942, South Philadelphia High School. I was an average student, mainly because I was interested in sports. World War II had started just a few months before I graduated from high school. And being the thing that everyone was doing, and I felt strongly about helping the effort, I decided to go in the Navy, and I thought I'd go right to the top. Why not go into naval aviation? They won't take me anyhow. So I went down to a place, 501 North Broad Street, for a Navy physical, and I passed. And then when I passed, they said, "You passed." I said, "Are you sure?" They said, "Yeah, we're sure." So they said, "But you're going to have to wait 3 months before we can take you into the next group." So while I was waiting, I went to Westchester College, because I was eventually going to do that anyhow. And while at Westchester, I ran cross country, and we ran against University of Pennsylvania, and luckily I came in first that day. So now I get called up to the University of Pennsylvania and doing all the exercise and things I had to do there. And the track coach of Pennsylvania came up to me, and I'm trying to remember his name. I knew it real well. He said, "How about running for us in the Penn relays?" And I said, "Well, what position?" He said, "Well, what's the race?" He said, "It's a 4-mile relay," which they don't have anymore, which meant each person would run 1 mile. So I said, "Okay, what's my leg?" He said, "You're anchor." And I thought, oh boy, if I'm anchor, I'm going to look like a turtle coming in with the rest of these guys. These were the top runners in all the country at that time. There was Gene Fensky and the whole guy. They were all heroes of mine. And I thought running against them wouldn't be too hard. But things went well. By the time I got to Baton, we were so far behind to make much difference. So I didn't look too bad. I made myself look pretty good.
U.S. Naval Flight Preparatory School, Battalion 3, Platoon 3, University of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Dear Mother and Dad, well, things are still going along okay. I have just finished the majority of my studying, so I decided to write this letter before turning in for the night. They have told us now that we are going to get our khaki uniforms, and then before we leave, we'll get our navy blues. This Thursday, we are due to get our needles again. We are all looking forward to that. I have a schedule change this week, so the gym is in the morning. That makes us pretty tired during the afternoon classes, but it winds up that we get an extra half hour before supper. I was asked to run for the University of Pennsylvania, March 26th, I think. I am going to run the 2-mile event. It is going to be held at Camden Convention Hall. I don't know whether I'll make it, as I have to get permission, and I might need all that time I can get to study. Well, I'll see you this weekend, I think. Love, Bob.
While at the University of Pennsylvania, we did a lot of marching. We had a lot of ground school. We went and took a lot of courses, naval courses, Navy language, ship and plane recognition. They would flash these pictures of an airplane or a ship up on the screen, and because we studied them, they flashed them up at a 75th of a second, and we were supposed to determine what they were. It was good training at the University of Pennsylvania. There's a field that most people don't even know about, River Field, right across the street from the University of Pennsylvania. You get down those steps, there's a baseball field down there, there's all kinds, there's a soccer field and everything else. That's where we did a lot of our running and things. From the University of Pennsylvania, I went to Mount St. Mary's.
Could you hang on for just a second?
Yeah.
Where did you stay where did you live in the University of Pennsylvania?
Okay. While living in the university, we lived in the quad, which was all those big buildings were student, and all in there, just in there was just naval aviation cadets. We took over the whole place. So we marched in there all the time. There were gardens. It was a habit that we'd have fire drills at 2 o'clock in the morning. They had an airplane in there on the grounds, a steam room, which I was later going to fly And we all thought that was neat, and good luck, we'd all tap it all the time.
Did Mom and Dad ever come down and visit you?
Yeah, my mother and dad came down to visit me one time at Houston Hall, which is in the University of Pennsylvania, a very famous place, because someone told them that's where I was. Well, that's where I was, all right, but I was marching with an elephant gun for discipline purpose. I got some demerits for doing something, and here was my first visit of my parents seeing me marching with a gun for discipline reasons. After University of Pennsylvania, I went to Mount St. Mary's College, Emmitsburg, Maryland.
July 8, 1943. A.C. Robert Emberger, CAA, WTS, Mount St. Mary's College, Emmitsburg, Maryland, room 317. Dear Mother and Dad, well, we arrived safely after a number of holdups. We left Penn at 1:30 and we got the 2 o'clock train to Baltimore. We got there at 4:30 and we had dinner at the restaurant at the station. We then left there by means of bus and traveled for 2 hours. We are in the dead of wilderness out here. The dorm we are living in is really a beauty. They are much bigger and cleaner. I'll close now, having told you that I'm safe, and I'll write a letter when I have time. It is now 9:50 and taps are at 10. Love, Bob.
We had ground school, a lot of phys ed, a lot of marching, and basic navigation. This was my first opportunity to get involved with aviation. Right across the road, which was Route 15 at that time, which was one lane each way, that's where their fields were. That's where we picked up a Piper Cub, and which was sort of like aviation on a shoestring. It was real light, but it was a good plane. It was my first time flying. And after flying, I think it was 5 hours, my instructor says, "You're okay to fly." I said, "Are you sure?" And because I wasn't going to be with anybody now, so I soloed. And when I tried to land, I bumped all the time, and I would give it the gun and go around. I must have made 4 tries. Finally, I just let it bump till it stopped. And my instructor came over and he said, "I thought we were going to have to shoot you down, Emberger." But what happened was we wore seat parachutes, and my seat chute was about 2 inches in front of my seat where it shouldn't have been, and I couldn't bring the stick all the way back. You had to bring the stick all the way back to land the airplane. So I wasn't getting full use of it. That's why I bumped all the time.
Sunday the 25th. Dear Mother and Dad, I soloed. I actually did just about an hour ago. I took it up and down and through some maneuvers by myself for about an hour. I really do have confidence in myself now. I am the first in our group to solo. I am due for my ducking tonight. That's what goes with soloing. It is a custom to get thrown in the pool. All the fellows are cooking up some ideas. I had off until 12 p.m. last night, so 3 of us hitchhiked to Gettysburg. That is where the box of candy is coming from. You see, we stopped for some and it was really good, so I thought I would send a box home. I received the package you sent me and your letter yesterday. Thanks a lot. I'll close now. Love, Bob. Wednesday the 8th. Dear Mother and Dad, I received your letter today and was very glad to hear Dad got his vacation. I suppose you didn't get the letter I sent last Monday night. The fact is, I soloed. Yep, I took her up and landed it myself. It really was a lot of fun. I have been up twice since solo, and still no one in our platoon has soloed. I felt pretty good. I sent a box of candy from Gettysburg last Saturday night. I guess when you get it, it will be like soup. I sure wish I could make the shore, but there is no possible way of me making it, as I fly practically every Sunday. It was really hot today. I'll bet that beach felt good. I have to close now, as I just tossed up in our room to see who has to go after ice cream, and I lost. Love, Bob.
Now, I get a bee in the cockpit. I'm trying to shoo it out. Every time I shoo it out, I'm pushing a stick forward. So the plane's going like this, up in the air. And I'm trying to get that damn thing out. I can still remember that. But Mount St. Mary's College, the people there were wonderful to us. They really were. We had our own area. We had, I can remember our priest there. He came to all our meetings, Father Fives. I can still remember him. Well, he was a super guy. If you had any problems or anything, you went to him. He was just a good guy to talk to. He wasn't involved with Navy, but he made it a point to become involved with us. I can so remember that. Then we went from Mount St. Mary's. I was still at Mount St. Mary's, and they picked 5 or 6 of us to go to Waynesboro Airport. And I thought that was pretty good because it sort of meant I was doing a fairly good job. So we went to Waynesboro Airport, and we're flying a plane called a Waco. Now, after the Piper Cub that I was flying, this seemed like a huge airplane. It was an open cockpit, 2 seats, bi-wing, 2-wing airplane. And we flew that, and I flew that with Navy instructors there. And after one flight, the instructor said, you get Walt Creighton and go in town and get lunch, and take the Navy Jeep. Okay. So I said, my friend's nickname was Bubba. I said, Bubba, come on, let's go in town. We got to the Jeep, and I said, you drive. He said, no, you drive. Neither one of us knew how to drive a car. But that didn't stop us from driving the car. We never did stop anywhere. We laughed the whole damn way around. We stalled at every spot. And we got back near the airport, and there was a stone entrance to the airport, an arched entrance. I said, Bubba, that looks like it's getting close. He said, just go fast. So now I'm flying to Waco, and I have my instructor with me, and we're doing spins. Now, to do spins, if I want to spin to the right, I pull the nose up, and I kick right rudder, and when I lose speed, it starts spinning to the right. And my instructor was saying, crack the throttle, and I didn't know what he was saying. He was saying, cut the throttle. I thought he was saying, crack the throttle. So every time he said that, I pushed the throttle forward, we just spun faster. So when we finally got down, he said, what were you doing, trying to kill me? I said, no, you told me to crack the throttle. He said, no, he said, I told you to cut the throttle.
Well, how come you couldn't hear him? Wasn't he seated beside you?
Behind me.
Oh.
It's 2 seats. He was right behind. Instructor was behind me. I had the front seat.
So what did you just yell at you? How did they communicate?
Well, yeah, they had to yell.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's all air and it's speed and it's.
It was open cockpit.
And they had something called a Gosport tube, which was a hose with a funnel on the end of it, which that never worked too well anyway. So usually the best bet was for him to bang on the cowling and to call to me, and he would do that. From there I went to Lambert Field, St. Louis, and this was in the winter time, and this was an open cockpit, and it was a plane I loved. I soloed in it. Now I had a lot more confidence in myself. It was a good airplane.
What kind was it?
It was a bi-wing open cockpit.
Oh, okay.
It was painted yellow, and every Navy pilot in training in World War II flew that airplane. That was the plane everyone flew.
Did it have a nickname? Was it the Yellow Pearl?
Yellow Pearl. Yellow Pearl was a nickname and we flew formation. If it was a 3-plane formation, the lead plane, then the 2 side planes would be what they called step down. You'd be about 2 feet lower than them. So from the ground, it looks like you're all on the same level, but it's really not. And then we did a lot of different moves: a slow roll, snap roll, loops, an Immelman, which was a half a loop, and then you turned it over on its back. Then we did spins. Then we did inverted spins. Now, a regular spin, you just pull it up and it falls off to the side and it spins. An inverted spin, you take it up in the air, you turn it upside down, pull the nose up, and you're spinning upside down. And the earth is your safety belt.
Oh, man.
You're making sure you have a parachute with me.
U.S. Naval Air Station, Lambert Field, St. Louis, Missouri, Friday. Dear Mother and Dad, it is Thursday afternoon, and I am at present sitting in the ready room at the flight field. Yesterday we had a big snow and sleet storm. Because of that, we are grounded today. The runways are nothing but a thin layer of ice. I am just as glad because the temperature is below 0. Yesterday some news broke that really has us wondering. We were told our entire base is being moved in about 3 weeks. You see, the British RAF are moving in here. They are moving this outfit either to Detroit or Florida. I don't know whether this move will affect us or not, because if everything goes okay, we will be finished our training here in 3 to 4 weeks. I was pleased to receive your letter, Dad, and don't be too cocky about your bowling. I am in the acrobatic stage now. It is swell. We have loops, slow rolls, snap rolls, Immelmans, and lots of others. I just got a nifty haircut yesterday. I got it cut real short. My flight instructor has been writing me about it all morning. He claims he won't take me up because he doesn't want my ears to catch cold. I'll close now. Love, Bob.
And another thing we had there, we had pylons, which were 2 towers that you would practice flying figure of 8 around the pylons. That was practice, trying to stay the same distance away all the time. And I had a real good friend, Wayne Hartman. We always did things together. And we were going out that day to do some stunt flying. And I said, Wayne, I'll meet you at the pylons. We had no communication between the tower and the plane. The only communication was a light. They gave us a green light or red light, and he was taking off first. So he took off. I had to wait, I thought about 5 minutes. It probably wasn't that long. But when I got out to the pylons, I saw this plane flying around the pylons. I thought, that's strange. Hartman doesn't like to practice. But I got up pretty high. I thought, well, I'll dive on him. Well, I'm going to dive on my friend. And when I came by, here were 2 people in a plane, and which meant one was an instructor. So I dove right by this plane, and I kept going, tried to get the hell away as fast as I could. I got back to the field. He beat me back there. My name was up on the bulletin board to see him. And whenever you took any check flights, the instructors would check you out. You either got an up check or a down check. And if you got a down check, which means you didn't do too good, then you had to fly 2 up checks to erase that down check. Well, when I got to see him, he said, you got a down check. So now I got to fly 2 up checks. So the first flight I have a pretty good instructor, and I had a damn good flight. My second flight, I got the guy that gave me the down check. Now this is the guy that's going to get in the plane with me, and I'm scared to death. And I went out, and I didn't really have that good a flight. We got back, he says, how'd you do? I said, well, I didn't think I did real good. He said, you were lousy. He said, but let me tell you something. Excuse me, buddy. If you had enough balls to dive on me, I'm going to pass you. So that's how I got past that. Then we did night flight. I never did night flying before. Now I have an instructor in the back seat, and I'm in the front seat. We're doing night flight. And I swear, all my night flight was at sunset. I could still see everything. Now he said, okay, you're all set for night flight. I never did see it. Now I'm in the plane that's dark. And I'm looking out the side of the plane. It looked like the plane was on fire. The exhaust tubes that come out, this fire comes out of them. But you don't see that in the daytime. You only see that at night. So I thought, well, I'm not going back and telling the plane's on fire. I'll just fly the damn thing. So night flying was, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. I managed to get through it. It's totally different. It's all instrument flying, but it's something that had to be done. So now we were going to fly. I think there were 8 planes. 4 planes were going to take off and do touch and goes. That means you flying around 1,000 feet, come in, hit the runway, and take off again. They were touch and goes, practice landing. And the other 4 planes were going to go up to 1,500 feet, turn left, and circle. And then when you got the light from the tower, then you were going to change positions. They would go up and circle, and we'd go down and do touch and goes. Well, first 2 planes, I'm the 4th plane. The first 2 planes turned left. The 3rd plane turned right. And I'm the 4th plane, I turned left. Now we got 3 planes going left and 1 plane going right at 1,500 feet. Every time this damn plane was coming at us all the time. And scared the hell out of us. I thought, I'm not staying here. So I went out and I flew over a little town, I think it was called St. Charles. I went over and flew over that town for about a half hour till I made sure they were all gone or dead or wherever the hell they're going to be. So when I got back, the instructor said I did the right thing. So that was pretty good. And that was my experience with night flight. But but when I had to practice those slow rolls, snap rolls, and loops, I always did it before with an instructor. Now I'm going out by myself. I'm thinking, I don't have anybody here with me. It's just me doing this stuff. I'm not so sure. Well, I did the first one that went real good. After that, it was a piece of cake. I didn't mind doing that. And then after that, I went to University of Georgia. That was all pre-flight school, all physical fitness, a hell of a load of physical fitness, all ground school, navigation. We had to learn the Morse code at that time, and we would always be dressed in full uniform on Sunday and march down to the football field, and the people of town would come down and watch us march on the field. We were the guinea pigs for that. We learned Navy navigation. We did Morse code, ship and plane recognition, and in there they had something that was called a Dilbert Dunker, and this Dilbert Dunker was at the swimming pool. This was a mock-up airplane that you got in, and you got up in the air about 20 feet, and this thing was on a couple of railings, and it would slide down these railings when they released it, and it would go to the bottom of the pool, and you were in it. Now you had to get out of that and get the briefcase that was supposed to be there. This was important. To me, I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun because I was a water guy and exercise guy, but it was scary as hell for some of the other cadets. And they always had Navy in the pool with scuba equipment on to pull somebody out if they got scared. Some of the kids got scared and couldn't move. I mean, they just stayed there, and they pulled them out. And it was called a Dilbert Dunker. Now, I'm trying to follow this paper here. A Dilbert was anybody in the Navy that did something wrong. You're always a Dilbert. So that was the language they used. I got these things mixed up. Okay. Then from there I went to Corpus Christi, Texas.
Hang on for a second. While you were in Georgia, did you play any sports or do anything?
No.
No. Okay. So
we did sports, Navy against Navy,
okay.
Cadet against cadet. We did boxing. We had boxing. A lot of things like that. But most of it was brute physical fitness. I can remember one time they were going to have a party for us aviation cadets. And so I met a young woman there, first time. I asked her to go with me. She said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Pennsylvania." She said, "You're a Yankee." Well, that was the end of that conversation. I was a Yankee. I never thought of Yankees as rebels, but at that time they did.
U.S. Navy Pre-Flight School, Athens, Georgia, Thursday. Dear Mother and Dad, I received your letter and was very glad to receive it. I really enjoy reading long letters. I wish I had known about your anniversary, so you had a good time. I'm glad to hear it. Tomorrow night we're going to see Georgia play Tennessee, and Saturday night our pre-flight team plays. Hartman and myself have a date this Saturday night with 2 girls from the college. This morning, our battalion played the senior battalion football. I played fullback the entire game. I made one good run on the kickoff. I ran about 65 yards back. Our team lost 13-0. We were really tired after the game. We play again next week. We just finished having a surprise room inspection before I came in, and everything was okay. So I have this weekend off, or rather liberty, 3 hours Saturday night and 4 hours Sunday afternoon. That is all we get if we are okay. Tonight we take a code test, so I still have my fingers crossed. I'll close now as we muster soon. Love, Bob. P.S. Nice going, Dad, on your night classes. Tell me how you make out. Yes, we do have a graduation here, and we are issued blues and whites, so there is no need to send any clothing here. U.S. Navy Pre-Flight School, Athens, Georgia. Dear Mother and Dad, well, it is Tuesday, and this is the first chance I've had to write in quite a while. This is the first letter I've written in about 4 days. This life is really exciting down here, never a dull moment nor a free one. I saw the University of Georgia play Tennessee Friday night, and Georgia won 67-0. Some game. Saturday we went on an 11-mile hike. It was all through the woods, mostly bud and creeks and hills. We walked through some Civil War trenches. I also saw my first cotton plantation and Negroes picking it. I grabbed the ball and will send it with my magazine tomorrow. Our team, the Pre-Flighters, played Daniels Army Air Base Saturday night, and we won 19-13. It was the best game I think I've ever saw. We scored our last touchdown in the last 3 minutes. Sunday we had chapel service about 9 a.m. It was one of the prettiest sights you can imagine. There were about 2,000 marching through the streets with the Navy band in the lead. The senior half wore blues and we wore khakis. They were in the lead. There wasn't one cadet out of step. The church service itself was also pretty. I am enclosing the pamphlet. I received a letter from Mr. Graham today. I wrote about a week ago. I will send that letter too. Please save it for me. I'll close now. Love, Bob.
In Corpus Christi, Texas, I flew an SNV, an SNJ, and a Beechcraft. The V and the J, they were single-engine planes. The Beechcraft was multi-engine, twin-engine planes. And we would go up and do navigation with those, and we would fly from town to town. It was a pretty good airplane. We did a lot of celestial navigation, and we did what was called dead reckoning, where you just how fast the plane is going, what speed you're going, what direction you're going, and that was all plotted out on the map. And you would do that as if all the information you're given was right. Sometimes it wasn't, so it wasn't right. Then we had training in a Link trainer, which was a blue mock-up airplane, and you sat in there, and then they put the hood over top of you, and there was a person next to you that was controlling winds and wind direction and stuff like that, and you were to fly this landing pattern. You knew where the field was, and you had to bring this Link trainer in. And what you would do, the noise you would hear out on your phone was either an A or a B, and that was divided up into quadrants. Now there was an A which was dot dash da 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 da. That was the A. The B was dot it dot it dot it dot it. Now there was an A up the top and there was an A down the bottom. There was a B at the top and a B down the bottom. And one of those is where the airport was. So you would pick up an A sound or a B sound. If you picked up an A sound and you were going away from the airport, you'd hear da-da, 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 not that fast. It would take a while. That's why I sent a message back to Sue to ask DeMolin if he still knows. Every time we flew, and I was his co-pilot for quite a while, we'd say, is that a build or a fade? He always had a build and I always had a fade on there. So we were constantly screwed up with. But the Link trainer was scary. I mean, we weren't going to get hurt, but we're in there and we just have all the information from us. And then I was flying an SNJ one day and practicing takeoffs and landings. And just before I was ready to land, my propeller started sputtering. I knew what that was. I was running out of gas. And beside me on my left-hand side was a handle, and this was called a wobble pump. And if you moved that handle, you would get whatever gas is left in there into the engine. And I wobbled the hell out of that damn thing. And I did get on the plane. When I got to the ground, propeller was standing straight out. And one of the instructors who had a student with me came over and said, "Did you just land that plane?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You did a damn good job." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I was scared. That's why I did a good job." And alongside Corpus Christi, there was an island, Padre Island, which is very famous today. But at that time was nothing there but a couple of farms with cows. And anytime we practice target shooting, we make sure we shoot a couple of cows, because then we get steak for dinner.
U.S. Naval Air Station, Corpus Christi, Texas, Sunday. Dear Mother and Dad, It is Easter morning, and I have been discharged from sickbay. I went to church this morning and attended one of the best sermons I have ever heard. I am back in the barracks now, and we are getting ready to move. You see, we go to a different flight field for the first 3 weeks. Wayne and all of the rest of my buddies left last week, and I am a total stranger in my new platoon. My address has changed. My new class is 4A-44. I was sorry to hear about Nanny, but I suppose it was for the best because she had been ill for some time. Please excuse me for not sending an Easter card, but I have been in sick bay. Josephine found out I was home the second time. I told her I was only home for a few days. Will you see about giving her my picture, Mother? I must close to continue packing. Love, Bob. U.S. Naval Auxiliary Air Station, Cudahy Field, Corpus Christi, Texas, Monday. Dear Mother and Dad, it is Monday morning and it is a very dreary day. I just finished taking my clothes out of the laundry bag when I saw a letter I'd written to you all crumbled up, so I thought I'd better right down and write. How is everything at home? I am not receiving all of my mail here. I think it is because my class has changed and they haven't changed it on their schedule. You said you sent a package. Well, I still haven't received it. I told them and they said they would remedy it. I met Harry Gilbert here. He was in the track team at Southern. He was going to Penn at the same time I was. I am still grounded. I wish they would lift it soon, but I must admit I am having a good time. You see, I go to ground school in the morning and then go swimming the rest of the afternoon. I am really getting tan now. On the front of this stationery is a picture of our barracks. Love, Bob. Divine Service, Cudahy Field, Sunday, 14 May, Mother's Day. Chaplain, J.D. McCormick, U.S. Naval Reserve. Dear Mother and Dad, I just returned from church and it was very nice. The chaplain preached his sermon on Mother's Day and home. It was very touching. Did you go down to the shore? It is really a very beautiful day as the sun is out bright and strong and a few white clouds in the clear blue sky. I received the pictures and I thought they were very good, especially the pictures of you, Dad. By the way, Mother, where is the picture of you and I? The fellows in my room saw the snaps and they said that Dad looks very strict and that as if he beat me. Of course, they were only kidding because of the frown Dad was wearing. I did explain to them how swell you really were, but you were not worth a darn at bowling. Love, Bob. September 30, Saturday. Dear Mother and Dad, I will start off with some of the best news I have. I finished up last night, so I am all finished up with everything. The only catch is I will have to wait for a couple of weeks for my date of rank to come in. Last Monday, my roommate and I went on a cross-country trip to Little Rock, Arkansas, and had dinner there. And on Wednesday, we went to Memphis, Tennessee. I thank you very much for the $50. It will really help me pull through my expenses. I also received the candy you sent. My boyfriend and I have been parading up and down the halls with our uniforms, drilling our roommates. You would sure have a fit of laughing if you could see us. We'll close now. Love, Bob. Wednesday, U.S. Naval Air Station, Corpus Christi, Texas. Dear Mother and Dad, today I was transferred to the graduating battalion. I will graduate next Wednesday. I am not so sure of getting leave. Up till today, everyone was getting in, but today the fellows were getting orders to go right to their next base without 1 day off, although a few fellows that did get it got about 25 days. There's a general rule, the first salute you give as an officer, you give the person that saluted you $1. Today, a lot of my boyfriends were graduating, and I made $4. I saw Wayne a few days ago, and he still has a few weeks of flying to go yet. I'll close now, and I hope I get that leave. The fruitcake was received, and it was very good. Love, Bob. P.S. Can you get my white shirts cleaned just in case? Western Union, Mr. or Mrs. Joseph Emberger, 2639 South 66th Street. We'll graduate Wednesday, 21 days leave. We'll be home sometime Saturday. Love, Bob.
And then I graduated from there. I became an ensign, and I had the choice of Navy, Marine Corps, or Coast Guard. They all took the same training. We were all just cadets until that time. And my first thought was, being a guy that thought he could kill the world, I'm going to go Marine Corps. Well, I waited for a week, and they didn't take me. So I said, the hell with it, I'm going Navy. So I went Navy, and I wasn't sorry I went there. So they were good to me. And one of the traditions there, when you get your commission, the commanding officer's there or the admiral's there, he shakes you. We had to practice this. He'd shake your hand with one hand and give you the diploma with the other, and you had to salute him. Now, these were three things you weren't allowed to screw up with the commanding officer there. And the first enlisted person that saluted you after you got your commission, you had to give that person a silver dollar. So we all had silver dollars on. And the week I was waiting, when there were some graduations, I'd run out and salute people getting their silver dollars. Then I went to, after graduation, I went to Jacksonville, Florida, and flew a PBY. This was a seaplane. Now this is an entirely different animal at all to fly. When you get in the water, you're a boat. Now, take off. You have to get enough speed, and it's laying flat in the water. Where you get enough speed, they say you get up on the plane, which means you're just getting up there. And when you have enough speed, you can lift off, and you'll feel yourself getting up. Unless you hit a wave. If you hit a wave, sometimes you're in the air before you wind off, and that's not always. With this airplane, with a boat, you got a steering wheel, and you got a rudder, and you can go back up, or you can go forward. Seaplane, it just goes straight, and the only way you can turn it, if I wanted to turn left, I would give it right engine, and I'd throw out a sea bag on the left side. Now the sea bag would trap water and drag, and the right engine would turn you around. And when you got around to where you wanted to be, you'd yell, "Trip the sea anchor." They'd have a rope on it, would pull it, and the water would spill out, and you would go straight again. If you went past where you wanted to tie up, you had to go all the way around again. There was no backing up. And landing at night, we used to land in the St. Johns River at night. And you see nothing. It's black. It's just all black. And you know where there are some signs where there's some buoys and things there, but the idea was to put the plane in a landing attitude. Now, landing attitude was you're getting ready to land, but you don't know when you're going to land. So when you come down, you hit pretty hard. And the first thing you do, you call out to the crew, check the seams. Now all the seams were made with pop rivets. Some would pop out. They'd have pencils there where they could stick in where the rivets popped out. This was ancient aviation. Then we flew from Jacksonville, Florida. We would fly down to Cuba, to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and that was interesting. We were supposed to be looking for submarines too on the way. That was part of the job. DeMolin claims he saw a submarine one time. I don't know whether he did or not. But then we land down there in Guantanamo Bay, and we moor up to a buoy, and then they bring out a Liberty boat to take us back. But we always have to have someone on the plane. So while we're there one day, and we're waiting to be taken ashore, it was a beautiful day. And I said, "Hey, anybody wants to go swimming, let's go swimming." So I said, but we kept a guy on the radio. We kept one of the men on the radio. We always had to have somebody on the radio in case we got a message. So we're swimming there. We're diving off the wing, just skivvies on, diving off the wing, sometimes not even skivvies. We're diving into the water. We're getting out, diving in, and all at once the radio man comes out. He says, "Sir," he says, "they said you can swim in there if you want, but there's barracuda in the water." so we got the hell out of there pretty quick.
U.S. Naval Auxiliary Airport, Jacksonville, Florida. Tuesday. Dear Mother and Dad, well, I am back at work again, but I had a full week down at the beach and we really did have a good time. We both had a terrific tan. Everyone is asking what happened to us. About that income tax, they made a mistake somewhere because if I had only paid a quarter of it, it would be due, but I paid half, and so it won't be due till sometime in September. Don't worry anything about it. I got a card from Wayne today, and he is in San Diego and has an FPO address, so I guess he will be going over soon. I guess I'll drop him a line tonight and see what he has to say. The food here is pretty good so far. I hope it doesn't change. We had a picture taken on the boardwalk, so I'll send it home, but send it back as it is the only one I have, and I would like to keep it. I'll close now. Love, Bob. P.S. Sure wish I could be home to help you with that porch. U.S. Naval Air Station, Jacksonville, Florida, Christmas, 1944. Dear Mother and Dad, first of all, I want to say Merry Christmas. I am very sorry I could not be home with you this year, but maybe next time the Yuletide rolls around, we will all be able to open our presents together. I started out to buy some presents, and the brooch I bought for you, Mother, caught my eye, and I was sure you would like it. Dad, I am really sorry, but my roommate and I looked around for a week, and we were stymied. I do wish you would put this little money towards a suit or a hat or something you would really like. I want to say Merry Christmas again to the best mother and dad a fellow could ever want, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Your loving son, Bob.
And after that, I went to Hutchinson, Kansas, and now I'm flying a B-24, and this is where I hooked up with Demoulin the first time. We were stationed in Hutchinson, Kansas, and Demoulin was in training to become a PPC, which was a patrol plane commander. He had been out in battle and back, and I was coming through for the first time, so I was in training to become a co-pilot with all the pilot trainings that goes with that. And I did a couple of times. I had the second seat, the co-pilot seat, with Demoulin, and we got along real well. When it came time to break up and form different crews, I wasn't scheduled to go with Demoulin, but he wanted me with him. He said, "Would you come with me, Bob, and be my co-pilot?" I said, "If you can arrange it, that would be fine." The person that was originally supposed to go with him was a young man by the name of Charles Embry. So Charles Embry says, "Of course, if you want to go with Demoulin, that's all right with me." So he switched. And the crew he went with, on the way out, his plane hit a mountain in the Philippines. And Charles Embry, who would have been with Demoulin, he and the rest of the crew were all killed there. He was another good friend of mine. We used to call him the Little Colonel. He was from Louisville, Kentucky. So that's how I got to wind up with Demoulin, and we had a fantastic relationship. He could read my mind, and I could read his mind. We didn't always agree, but we always agreed to do the right thing. And I'm flying. He was 9 days. My mother always was happy because I was flying with an older man. He was as crazy as I was, and he was only 9 days older than me. And the reason he got into action before I did, because he didn't wait the 3 months like I did in the beginning. He wouldn't wait. He went into the office every day and sat there till they put him on duty. And we flew this B-24, and it was a super airplane. After that, we went to San Diego. It was called Camp Kearney. It's no longer that. It's now Miramar, which is the big fighter base. And we had a Marine base right next to us, El Toro. We had some interesting conversations with those people. This one day, flying out of Kearney, Demoulin says to me, let's go buzz Los Angeles. I said, "Well, Orville, I don't think that's a real good idea." He said, "Well, we're going to go." I have no control. He's a pilot. I'm co-pilot. So I said, "Why are we going to do that?" He says, "Well, that's where Sue is." Now, he just had been married a few months. He's going to show her how brave he is. And this is the suburbs of Los Angeles. We come down about 200 or 300 feet above the street with a 4-engine airplane, if you can imagine that. And I see people run out of their cars, and we thought that was pretty funny. So we get up there. He says, "How'd you like that, Bob?" I said, "Boy, that was neat." He said, "We're going to do it again." I said, "You're crazy, Orville. Let's not do that anymore." So he said, "Yeah, we're going to do it one more time." We did it one more time. So now we're getting back to the base. We get back to the base, and around the field, I can see cars around there. They're waiting for us. And we say to the crew, now, they ask you where we were. We're looking for submarines. That was part of the act there. We're looking for submarines. Okay, so we get down the field, and the commanding officer says, "Where were you guys?" I don't say anything. Demoulin says, "We were looking for submarines." Commanding officer says, "In Los Angeles?" So he had us pretty well to nail the wall. Well, they sent sent them all on over to North Island, which was the main big Navy. All the chief guys were there. Now there was no bridge there at the time. It was all Liberty boat. They sent him over. They didn't send me for court martial. Well, they let him go because he's a young guy, but they gave him hell, scared the hell out of him. Now they bring him back and they quarantine both of us to the base. We're not allowed to leave our quarters. Well, the only thing we can do is go to the officers club and drink at night, which that didn't stop us. So we went down, we had more than a few drinks, and we came back, and the next morning I get up and I see all these hats in the room. And I see the commanding officer's hat with gold braid on it. I said, Orville, where did these hats come from? He said, Bob, he said, you said if you couldn't find yours, nobody was getting theirs. You brought them all back. So now I got to get those hats back, and all the guys will watch me.
U.S. Naval Auxiliary Air Station, Camp Kearney, California, October 9, 1945. Dear Mother and Dad, since I haven't heard from you, I hope nothing is wrong. I have been getting the evening bulletin, and it is good to read. I am scheduled to leave tomorrow at 1400 aboard the carrier Card. You know they lowered the discharge points for engines to 36, and Hudnall is waiting for his to come through any day now. Wayne is going overseas the 10th of next month, so now I have the laugh on him. I arrived here about 5 hours late, but nothing was said, so I considered myself pretty lucky. We were held up because of bad weather. You probably won't hear from me for a couple of weeks, but please don't worry. How was the party at the Maters? I'll bet you really had a good time. I'll close now. Love, Bob. P.S. Dad, I'll send the money as soon as I get caught up a little. I hope you don't mind. USS Card, CVE 11, Sunday, October 15, 1945. Dear Mother and Dad, it is Sunday afternoon about 1600 and I just finished playing a basketball game. We lost. It is really hard playing on a deck that is moving. I didn't hear from you since I was home last time. I hope there isn't anything wrong. Is there? This morning I went to the church service and it was really very nice. You would have enjoyed it. The meals so far have been all right and the quarters are about the same. They have a movie every night, so that is where everyone goes. It is very beautiful on the flight deck at night, with all the stars and the moon out bright. It is a scene that couldn't be photographed. I suppose we will put to port about Tuesday. I started getting the bulletin again, and it is still appreciated very much. I'll close now so I can dig into this chicken supper. Love, Bob.
And then after Kearney, now we're on our way out to the Pacific, and we went to Kaneohe. We went to Hawaii, and the base we went to was Kaneohe. You visit there and try to get, and while we were there, we were going to fly these B-24s, Navy B-24s, but we were flying the PBY, the seaplane, and they had JATO tubes on the end of the wings. That was jet assisted takeoff. And we needed those because we didn't have enough water to get up in the air from the lake. And when we fire those JATO tubes, they would shoot you up in the air. So
December 26, 1945, Tinian. Dear Mother and Dad, well, here on Tinian, it is the day after Christmas, but home it is Christmas Day. I suppose right now you are eating a big turkey dinner. I sure wish I was there with you. We really had a very nice dinner here, turkey with all the fixings. Your packages arrived on the 24th. That was pretty good timing. Everything was in good shape. The fruitcake was well liked by everyone. Bob Hoffman flew here from Inuiatok, so we spent the holiday together. Christmas Eve, the villagers put on a pageant for us. It was really very nice, even if they couldn't speak English. Last night, Bob and I were going to the movies, and we were about 15 minutes early, so we decided to watch a basketball game. I thought I recognized a Negro boy. When I got close, it turned out to be Dean Cummings of Westchester. He ran on the track team there. We started talking about old times, and I told him I would be over to see him today. I hope you had a nice Christmas, and I am sorry I couldn't send any cards. Tell me what you got yourselves for Christmas. Goodbye for now. Love, Bob.
we did that. Now, the first place we went to was an island called Kwajalein. And that was where we wound up with our squadron, VPB116 Blue Raiders. And what I remember about Kwajalein, it was a damn short takeoff field. At the end of the takeoff was water, and the expression was either up or in. I never saw anybody go in, but it was damn short. And we had a Marine Corps plane come in and land after we were there about a week. And when the meals there, the rolls had weevils in them because they couldn't get them. And you wouldn't eat the rolls. After a while, I was eating the rolls, you know. I didn't care whether they had weevils or not. So this plane comes in, these Marines, and this Marine says to me, you know, he says, there's bugs in these rolls. I said, you're kidding. He says, no, there's bugs in there. I said, you go over and tell the medical officer. He was a pain in the ass, this guy. So he went over to the medical, he says, you know, he says, there's weevils in those rolls. The medical officer says, they're dead, aren't they? So that was his answer. That was the answer to that. Then after that, we did air sea rescue missions. Amazing enough, we did find people, which was part of our job. And then we went to Guam, air sea rescue, and hurricane hunters. I was still flying with the Mullen at that time. Then they weren't hurricanes, they were typhoons. Same thing. And our deal was to fly into the typhoon and chart it to see where it was. And we'd do it from day to day after flying in there so that we knew where it was and we could keep the ships from going in there. That was the purpose of that. And while we were there, one of our buddies, Phil Smith, who later became an admiral, you heard me talk about him. He was a good guy. He wasn't an admiral then. He was a lonely ensign or a JG, just like the rest of us. And they had a pet monkey, and so Orville said, "I'd like to have their monkey." So I said, "Well, let's steal it." So we stole their monkey. Well, the monkey bit the Mullen, and the Mullen got monkey fever. It was blisters down the side of his face, and he was the toughest guy I ever knew. Little guy, but he couldn't stand needles. He would pass out. So now it was our job to give him the needles. The health officer gave us these needles. So we laid him on a cot, bare ass naked, butt up in the air, and we'd all dance around him chanting while we're dancing around him. And one guy had the needle, and that was it. We also had a target painted on his backside, and we'd stick that needle in there and give him the shot with that. But he finally recovered for that. And after that, and we did air sea rescue. Then we went to Iwo Jima, and the people often wonder, there was a hell of a loss of life on Iwo Jima, primarily by Marine Corps. It was Suribachi. Suribachi was at the one end of the island, and as we took off, it wasn't a big island. As we took off, Suribachi was on our left. And that was good. In the daytime, that was nice. But if the weather was bad, it was dicey. Where was the rock in the sky? Where is the rock in the sky? Make sure we're at the right place. And we did air sea rescue, and we did rescue. In fact, we rescued. Well, when these guys, these Marines that we met, we stole a couple of their blankets. Kid thing to do. They went down and we found them. And they were on this little island called Chichijima, and we did hurricane plotting there. This was our first experience with GCA, which ground control approach, where on the ground was radar, and they could pick us up if we asked for help to bring us in, and then they would tell us what heading to follow. They could see on the radar if the blip was moving in those directions. They had to make sure they had the right plane. So if we came in with fog and we couldn't see, they'd bring us in to the field, and there was a glide path on their radar, and they would guide us on that glide path and get us down to the ground. The nickname of that was Zippo. And then we got a chance to fly spray DDT. These islands had a lot of disease and stuff on. Now I was flying this DDT, and I had on my plane, I put these big initials painted on DDT, Death, Destruction, and Turmoil was the name of my plane. And we would fly around, and there were people on the ground, they get sprayed with this DDT, which, as we know today, is awful. But at the time, that's what we used to control this, to control the spray.
United States Pacific Fleet Air Force, Patrol Bombing Squadron 116, April 14, 1946, Iwo Jima. Dear Mother and Dad, well, how are things at home? I'm sorry about that picture in the plane. You see, the fellow that took it sent the negatives home. I'll see if I can't get another picture like that taken. You asked if I still have my radio. Well, I left it in Kaneohe, Hawaii, but since then I've bought another one. I sure bet my room is pretty. I would give anything to see it. I was glad you saw Duke and Johnny. I wish you would send me their address. I suppose Ruth told you that Dee had a baby girl. He is really proud. Her name is Sharon Diane DeMolin. I thought it was very nice. There is talk we are going to move from this island to Kwajalein, which is quite a bit closer to home. We aren't doing much flying here at all. We average about 2 or 3 hops a week, so just about all I am doing is passing time out here. I'll say good night now and let me know all of the news. Love, Bob.
Then on my way home, came back to Kwajalein. While I was at Iwo Jima, and that's where George Bush, our president, got shot down just off of there. And Chichijima, the Japanese on there, many of them were known to be cannibalistic. If they caught you, they ate you. Now that's a horrible thought. And not DeMolin, but Bush was shot down, and a submarine picked him up. He was damn close to being picked up by the Japanese there, or he would have never been president. He would have been killed. So now now my job is to spray Chichijima. And at that time, there was a ship there going back to Japan, loaded with Japanese. War ended, loaded with Japanese. I not only sprayed the island, I also sprayed the Japanese on that ship with DDT. Horrible thought. But at the time, the feelings were so when I got back, I said to DeMolin, I said, I just sprayed a whole load of Japanese. I said, they'll never get a mosquito bite for the rest of their life. So that was our chance there. And then we returned to Kwajalein, and
Well, before you went to Kwajalein, did you ever fly into Japan?
oh yeah.
Would that, from Iwo or where?
Yeah, we flew into Japan from Iwo to a base called Yokosuka, and we flew right by Fujiyama, Mount Fujiyama. Beautiful, beautiful mountain, just beautiful. And we spent some time up there, and then we flew back from there, and we were gonna. The war had ended, and this is interesting. The editor of the New York Times, Whitelaw Reid, I can still remember his name. Whitelaw Reid was coming over to our island, and one of our pilots is going to get the opportunity to fly Whitelaw Reid to Japan. This is going to be, so we're all working our asses off to be the best pilots around. Well, the pilot that took him up to Japan was Whitey Reid. That was his son. We didn't know it. And Whitey Reid was the son of this Whitelaw Reid, and his son flew him up. He knew it all the time he was going to get the job.
May 12, 1946, Guam. Dear Mother and Dad, it is Sunday afternoon and a very peaceful day on Guam. We had been flying a weather patrol 1 out of every 3 days with the average flight time about 9 hours. Yesterday we went on a patrol and discovered a typhoon about 200 miles southwest of here. There is a weather squadron based here now, and they promised us a little vacation. I am sure to leave here this month, but I only wish I knew when it would be. We haven't received any mail now for 3 weeks. I sure would like to know how everything is. Is it very warm at home now? I'll close for now. Love, Bob.
And after we got finished there, then we flew to Kwajalein. Okay, this was in May of 1946. The war was over, but there are still some things to do. and we were stationed on Kwajalein in the South Pacific. And our jobs were, we were doing air sea rescue. There were a couple important planes that went down with important people on, and our job was to try and find the plane. That was one of our jobs. Our other job was weather reconnaissance. We were to fly into typhoons and chart them where they were from day to day. And because I was going to get out of the Navy, DeMolin was going to stay in. He was making out his career. I was going to get out and do. I always wanted to be a teacher and a coach. It was a hard decision, but I had made that. And so that month they tried to use me up because I was leaving, and they were trying to keep the other guys fresh, whatever they had to do. So that month, I flew as a co-pilot and as a PPC, patrol plane commander, at different times, and I flew 90.4 hours in 1 month. That was the month of May. And I said to my good friend DeMolin, I know if I don't get out of here, they're going to kill me, because I was sort of walking in my sleep. I said, I'm going to get down to the beach and just hide from people. And I went down to where the sand was. There was no beach, but this was in Kwajalein. It was right alongside the ocean. And I sat down there, and I saw another guy sitting down there, not too far away from me. And I thought, well, I'll go over and talk to him. He looked like a chief petty officer to me. He was an old grizzly guy. And we were talking. I was telling what I thought of the Navy at the time, which wasn't very nice. And he wasn't agreeing with me, but he wasn't disagreeing. He was just a good listener. And all at once, he got set to leave, and here comes a Jeep up to take him out, and here he was the admiral of the whole base. And I guess I got through to him because the next day I was gone.
June 1, 1946. Kwajalein. Dear Mother and Dad, well, at last I have good news. I received my orders to the States today, so I guess you know I am pretty happy. I might be able to fly out of here tonight, so I have my fingers crossed. It took a lot of dickering to do. I'll tell you about it when I see you. I'm sorry for not writing sooner, but I have been flying pretty long and hard hours for the last week. I didn't do anything but try to rest up for the next day's flight. I still have to pack some of my stuff, so I better sign off now and be all ready. Love, Bob. P.S. I received 26 copies of the bulletin yesterday. You can cancel my order now because I won't be receiving any more.
Then we came home, and we've had reunions right up to about we must have had at least 20 different reunions. Each year we went, and our Phil Smith, who had retired as an admiral, we always made him in charge of reunions. And he had a girlfriend, and his girlfriend was about 25 years younger than him. And they'd say, well, who's going to be chairman of the next reunion? I always say, Phil Smith. Well, she got up one time, she said, I think it's wonderful that you elect Phyllis. She said, but you're ruining our sex life. That's the kind of person she was. Well, and we had reunions every year, and we had some of the best times. We had governors come, we had Secretary of Navy come to our reunions, and we just had a good time. And that pretty much finishes it, so that's it. Sorry.
Thanks.
Eternal Father,